This lecture is taken from Tom Rainer, chapters 25 and 26 of his book, The Book of Church Growth. We will examine 4 subjects in this lesson. Hello, this is Steve Googe, welcoming you to this session of Church Growth 302. You will learn the principle of receptivity. We will examine the homogeneous unit principle, which is a very controversial idea. We will learn where and when people are the most receptive to the good news of Jesus. We will examine the importance of planning and goal setting, along with space considerations in 5 key areas, and then we will look at the appearance of the building, because that is critical. Receptivity in church growth. George Hunter is quoted by Tom Rainer as saying, "Church growth's awareness and evangelization of receptive people is the church growth movement's greatest contribution to this generation's world evangelization." There are seasons when people or people groups are more receptive to the gospel message than at other times. Rainer calls this the resistance receptivity theory. This can be graphically seen on the resistance receptivity scale published in Wagner's book Strategies for Church Growth. An example of the graph I just described is on page 251 of Rainer's book. On the next slide, we will examine those seasons when people are the most receptive. When and where are people most receptive to the good news of Jesus Christ? Receptivity should first be expected where churches are already growing. Even in areas where several growing churches are already present, it is highly likely that there are large numbers of people that are still unchurched, yet gospel receptive. This helps answer the question that church planters often hear. That is, there are already too many churches in the area. Why are you desiring to plant another one? There may be several churches in any given geographical location, but there is almost always those who are receptive to the good news of Jesus Christ, but are not members of any of those churches. A second likely area of receptivity is where people are encountering significant changes: social change, political change, economic change, or psychological change. During periods of change and transition, people are often eager to find comfort in the gospel. The third group of receptive people are the common working people and people from lower income areas. One perhaps valid criticism leveled at the Southern Baptist Convention is that we are more interested in reaching upper middle and above in economic status, and less interested in reaching working class people. Perhaps that is one of the reasons the convention is not reaching people as effectively as we once did, as reflected in our statistics. The homogeneous unit principle is the most controversial of all the church growth principles, and rightly so. Donald McGavran says, and I quote, "Men like to become Christians without crossing racial, linguistic, or class barriers." He believes that the natural barriers of society and culture must not be ignored, but utilized to recognize who would be the most receptive to the gospel and who could reach them most easily. He believes that people were more likely to become Christians if they did not have to leave their own group. I would offer at least one pushback from this principle. Christians must be faithful to crossing cultural lines if they are faithful in fulfilling the Great Commission. We studied this earlier in class, how important it is for the church to fulfill the Great Commission, and in doing so, that may mean that we cross these lines that seemingly divide us linguistically, racially, or culturally. The essence of the homogeneous unit principle can be expressed in two statements. First, rapid evangelization occurs best when people of a culture share their faith in Jesus Christ with others within their own culture. And then the second statement, Christians must not insist that a person abandon their culture to become a Christian. This material is taken from chapter 26 in Rainer's book and is entitled Planning, Goal Setting, and Church Growth. Most churches that plan for growth experience growth. Now, there are 6 advantages of planning. Number 1, it increases efficiency. God's resources of time, energy, and money are best used when we practice good stewardship. Number 2, it permits mid-course corrections. If plans need to be revised up or down in the middle of a planning year, there's nothing to stop that approach. Number 3, it unites the team with a singular plan and vision. Each member of the team understands their role in the vision, and the vision is more likely to be achieved. The vision of any organization, including the church, is the most important plan for them to follow. Then number 4, it helps measure effectiveness. Progress is measured according to the plans that are set forth. And 5, it makes accountability natural. And 6, it can become a model to help others. Goal setting is a very important aspect, and there is a strong correlation between planning and growth, but the correlation is even higher with goal setting. Now, here are 5 characteristics of good goals. Goals must be relevant. Goals must be measurable. The goal must be significant. The goal must be manageable. Goals must be related to both the pastor and the people. That is, they conform to the gifts that both the pastor and the people of the local church already possess. Goals are essential because they give specific direction to the church's vision. Now let's look at chapter 27 briefly. That tells us and teaches us about physical facilities and church growth. Physical facilities alone cannot set the future course of a church. They can, however, combine with other elements to be a contributing or detracting factor. There must be room for growth. When 80% of a facility is in use, it's time to make provisions for more room in the following areas. Parking. This may be the most crucial factor of all. For if people want to attend your church and drive into your parking lot and there is no close-up parking for them, they likely will circle out of your parking lot and either attend another church for worship or simply go home. The sanctuary must have room for people's personal space. Land is another area where space is needed, and certainly the nursery or the preschool is in need of attention, giving proper space for those who attend. And then last, educational space. Often a church can solve its building space problems by offering additional services. For example, a dual Sunday school might be provided, or multiple Sunday school classes at different times. And then worship services, perhaps one an early service and a second later service. All of those can help in growth. From the viewpoint of growth needs, multiple services are the best option, followed by building, which is slightly ahead of your projected growth. You want to build a building that doesn't accommodate just the people who are attending now, but you want to project ahead on what our growth will be in 5 years and in 10 years, and build so that you can accommodate those who want to attend them. The physical appearance of your facilities, it's extremely important. Whether it's the building, the grounds, the playground, the parking lot, all must be clean. Pay special attention to restrooms and the preschool area. Be sure that lighting and sound are of the highest quality because they set the mood for the service. Number 3, the comfort of the people. That's very important. Pay attention to temperature and seating issues. And number 4, conspicuous signs. People need to know where to go in the building to be able to find what they're looking for and to assess the ministries that are provided. Now let's briefly review what was taught in this lesson. We've talked about the receptivity of the gospel and understanding when people perhaps would be the most receptive. We have examined the homogeneous unit principle. We've recognized that it is one of the most controversial principles of church growth. Where and when people are the most receptive to the gospel. We've talked about the importance of planning and goal setting. And we've talked about space considerations in 5 key areas: parking, sanctuary, land, nursery, preschool, and education. We've talked about how critical it is to have the building appearance to be nice and clean. And we've talked about those areas particularly to pay closest attention to. Well, this does conclude our lesson for today. My prayer is that God will use you to help build a mighty congregation, and that in doing so, He will be honored and glorified.